What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Real Impact. Today, we've got a really good one lined up for you guys today, real estate and crypto together. So let's dive in.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, here, Mr. Paul Sparks. Paul, what's going on, man?
What's up, Austin?
Not much, man. Glad to have you on, man. So, for everybody listening that may not know who you are, just kind of give a little background about who you are, what you guys do, and then we'll dive into it.
Sure. We met in Collective Genius. So I'm a real estate investor here in Denver, Colorado. Formerly was an engineer and worked in corporate sales for 10 years with companies like Amazon, Walmart. So I had a long history of selling innovation and technology and different things like this to some of the largest companies in the world. And so got into real estate, started buying a bunch of rentals, decided to kind of use my sales skills to buy some off-market deals. That's what I thought was, the best thing to do with my skill set. We probably do, 2, 3, 4 deals a month here in Denver, nothing crazy volume, but we focus on doing some larger developments, things like that. And then doing some wholesaling, some novations, some different strategies like that. But found myself into the crypto space really because in my first year in business, like a lot of us business owners, we have these really lumpy sales. It's like you'll get a lot of cash flow, and then it's like a month or two of just drought, nothing.
Yeah.
It just sucks. So I found a really cool way to use crypto as a passive income generating tool. Most people approach crypto kind of like gambling. I mean, that's how everybody sees it.
Right. A lot of people too. Yeah.
Exactly. So I figured out how to do something, build something that I call a business treasury. I learned from some mentors. These are guys that are partnered with me in this new project we're working on in the blockchain space, but they showed me how to use crypto in a way, same way we would do rentals in real estate. We're doing the same strategy in the crypto world. And, so from that, I was able to show a bunch of guys in CG. That's how this all got started, was like, hey, I know how to do this thing. Let me just show you how to do this.
Yeah.
That started in March, and it snowballed into about 70 real estate investors, about 80 crypto investors. We got 100, actually it's 170 plus. I just checked before I got on here. Folks that are kind of working on this world of bridging real estate and blockchain together. And that's where most of my time is spent these days is, two sides of the coin. You got the real estate side and then, the blockchain side, and try to bring those two worlds together.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge, man. Cause I think like you said, right. A lot of people look at real estate, right, as like the tried and true asset. Like it's a solid investment. If you know what you're doing, right. And there's always depreciation, appreciation. Like there's so many different benefits, right? But like you said, like with crypto, and I'm one of those people, right? With crypto, it's more so like it's unpredictable, right? You don't really know what's going on. You don't know, what it relies on, there's people that do, right? But obviously to like your common investor or, anybody who's in real estate, right? Trying to go from real estate to crypto is scary.
Oh yeah. Big time.
Well,
the biggest problem is the language barrier.
Mhm.
The problem with people that are in crypto right now is most of them we study something we call the diffusion of innovation curve, which means that as technology moves throughout the population, it follows a very similar curve. We're talking about, people that are in blockchain now are truly the innovators and the early adopters. And so they have a tendency to really understand the technology at a high level and use a bunch of words that just confuse most of us.
Yeah.
So that's the big problem right now that we're trying to address, is this language barrier, because it just sounds like you're speaking a foreign language to most people.
Yeah, a lot of times, they start talking about ERCs and talking about all that stuff like that. And for most people, like you said, it just goes kind of straight over their head. Before we dive into the crypto more, right? So on your Instagram, one of the things I noticed that you guys do a lot up in Denver, you call them pop tops. What the hell is that? Because we're in Florida, right? I've never heard anybody talk about pop tops.
Yeah.
But I see you guys doing a bunch of them. So like, what is this is for the real estate guys, right? What is
Yeah.
a pop top?
So we have some areas of Denver that are more premier neighborhoods. And a lot of people are coming in and they're just buying these lots and scraping them and building, white box mansions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we found this little niche where we can go into these premier neighborhoods. They've got brick ranches, and we're talking maybe 1,000, 1,200 square foot
Mm-hmm.
on the main floor. The basement, however, when they built these back in the 50s and 60s, they built them with these really low, ceilings, like 6.5 foot. And it's not exactly usable space.
Right.
So again, what most people are doing is they're just scraping them. What we found is this interesting niche where we can pay more than a developer would pay, but take on a project that a fix and flipper would never touch. What we're doing is we're taking the roof off the house, we're popping the top and building a third floor, and we're digging the basement down a good 2.5 feet. So we've got a 8.5 foot, 9 foot ceiling in the basement, making it significantly more usable.
Right.
And we can really push the value in homes like that.
Yeah. So you're basically just taking an existing ranch style house and just making it a 3-story.
Exactly. Yeah, it sounds simple when you say it like that.
No, I know there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that. I was looking through and I was like, damn, what is that? Because I noticed that, you had the top, right? Like you were saying, the roof was completely off the house. So I was like, all right, I have an idea, but I wanted to ask because, I think a lot of people look at projects different ways. I think it's awesome, man. Like, I've never heard that done. So that's, kudos for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's all I don't know anything about construction. In fact, that's why we don't do many fix and flips, because I'm just terrible at it. And I was fortunate, as you start getting into these higher value developments, that's basically what it is, right? It's like halfway between a fix and flip and a development, and it basically is a development. But I found as you get further up into those types of deals, the caliber of contractor and the caliber of investor goes up as well. And so I just prefer to play in that space. The fix and flip game, the way I invest is what I call a barbell. And so meaning I either want on one side, I want it to be extremely reliable, very low risk. On the other side, if I'm going to do a construction project, I want it to have a lot of upside.
Right. Yeah. There's got to be enough upside to take on the risk of doing it.
Right. And so fix and flips for me, they could go well. And, I'm staring down a 6-figure loss right now on a fix and flip. Right. And it's just and we've done really well on some of them, but we've done really terribly on others. And I'm like, it's not reliable and it doesn't present massive upside. Just get it out of here. Until we can get better at those types of deals, we're not going to do them anymore.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, man. That definitely makes sense. All right. So now we'll dive into the biggest topic, right? So you guys are really creating a way, right, to merge real estate and crypto, right? So like, what was the thought process there? Because obviously there was a lot, and it's probably too much to pack into an hour, but in a brief kind of, what was the thought process there of trying to tie the two together?
So there's really two things I want to talk about today. The first is the opportunity to earn passive income with crypto the same way we are with real estate.
Mm-hmm.
The second opportunity I want to talk about is called real estate tokenization. I think that's more of what you're referring to.
Right. Yep.
But I want to explain first how this started. And it started through passive income. It started because I had a problem in my business I needed to solve, which was just cash flow. I didn't have consistent cash flow. And so I was fortunate enough to meet a gentleman who his name's Dan. And Dan in the late 90s was involved with writing a lot of the accounting standards that we use to this day. He runs one of the top accounting firms for crypto and real estate. And he sort of taught me this concept of what we call a business treasury. And what he helped Microsoft and companies like them specifically do in the early 2000s is
No
build
biggie.
what they call a no big deal. Right?
Yeah.
He helped Microsoft develop their business treasury. And let me define what that means. It means Microsoft's got about $200 billion in assets that they manage as far as their investable portfolio. They're not taking that money and sticking it in Chase Bank, right? What you find at the highest level in all these Fortune 500 companies is that they all have their operating business, but they also behave as a bank. They have and act like a bank. And what that means is they're taking their money and they're using it to lend out. They can borrow against it. It's earning cash flow. It's an actual asset for the company, not cash sitting in the bank account, right? So what he showed me how to do is do the exact same thing that all these Fortune 500 companies are doing, but do it from a small business perspective. How do we help small businesses behave like a bank, use the cash that's on hand, that's sitting in their bank account, retained earnings, and use it to create cash flow? And what he showed me how to do is use crypto to essentially create a business treasury that paid all of my operating expenses and employee salaries.
That's huge. Yeah.
So that's what I was able to do earlier this year, was create this business treasury that kicked out enough cash flow so that my business operated at net zero.
That's massive. Yeah. Because now any revenue coming in is profit, essentially, right? Yeah.
And so it takes the downside away and it gives you tremendous amount of upside. So like, we don't really have to do a deal. It's nice to do deals because that's how we make money. But like the treasury is there to support the business as an asset in the same way that Microsoft behaves like a bank. We can also learn how to do that as well.
Right.
So that was the first application, was like, I solved that problem for myself. I found out how to use crypto to do this. It's through a process we call yield farming. I'm not going to go down. If you guys,
I was about to say, there's probably so many different rabbit holes you can kind of dive into with that, but
and so we'll keep it high level. I'll tell you how to find more information about this at the end if you're so inclined. But basically, I was able to do this, and then I was able to, and starting in March, I presented on it in CG in January, and I won the belt. The title of my presentation was How I Built a Business Treasury Using Crypto That Pays All My Operating Expenses and Employee Salaries. And everybody was like, what did you just say?
Right. Yeah. What is this guy talking about?
Yeah. So then I took 10 people through about a 4 or 5 week process where I just showed how to do this. Here's how I'm doing it. And like I said, that's evolved significantly from there. And because we've been able to attract so many real estate investors and so many crypto investors, what I then started realizing is like, oh, we've got a much bigger opportunity here.
Right.
Of course, we can show real estate investors right off the bat how to start earning cash flow for their businesses so that they don't have to be stressed and anxious about whether I have to do a deal and can I make my payroll? Can I do all these things? Well, let's teach you how to behave like a bank so we get that anxiety level down.
Right.
So that we can then start creating the future leaders in this massive land grab that's taking place. That's what we should spend the rest of this call talking about, is the actual land grab, the opportunities.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. Because I think too many people, right? Like, especially in the real estate investment space, right? It's so transactional, right? A lot, especially if you're wholesaling or fix and flipping, right? It's super transactional. And like, to your point, like a lot of people is, the next deal covers, these expenses, the next deal covers, increasing our marketing, right? Like, and so that's huge to be able to teach businesses, especially like smaller businesses and real estate investors, how to cover those expenses, right? And to really kind of how to, keep those expenses in house. And like you said, act like a bank. That's awesome. So yeah, like, let's talk about that now. Like, how are you guys merging the two, right? And like, what's the land grab that we're looking at?
So let me describe the problem again. And what we figured out is that, so by learning all this stuff, and I went deep down the rabbit hole, learning all this stuff clearly.
Yeah.
And through that process, I've met what I call the crypto cowboys. Okay, crypto cowboys are the guys who have turned one of my close friends. That's how I got into this, because he called me up one day. He's like, dude, I just turned 50 grand into $500,000 like in the last 2 weeks. I'm like, this is interesting. I'm listening.
Yeah. Earlier this year, there was a lot of that going on.
There was. And so I have to also recognize that it's fairly taboo to speak like that in the real estate community, because people immediately think you're gambling and that it's just a moonshot, pump and dumps, all these things. Hopefully by the end of this call, I will dispel those beliefs, right? But point is he called me up. That 50 grand that turned into 500,000 turned into 40 million 6 months later.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. He's one of many people who have seen that. Myself, I have not seen that quite that level of success, but I've had multiple X's, let's just say, in the last couple of years. And a lot of these people now are sitting on so much capital. It's new money, right? And they don't know how to get it out of crypto and into anything real. Right. They're what we call their downshift. So what happens when these coins pump? They're not going to pull chips off the table and just stick it in cash. Right. They're not going to do that.
Especially with crypto too, because a big thing about crypto, right, is the decentralization, right? And that's
exactly
a lot of the people that are heavy into crypto don't like banks.
No. So they want to invest in something. The real downshift that they have right now is like large caps like Bitcoin or ETH, right? Something like that. But again, they don't, and it was made perfectly apparent when Steve Trang and I were having conversations with these guys, and it became perfectly apparent they don't know anything about real estate. They don't know, like we talk about the 4 wealth drivers of real estate: cash flow, loan pay down, appreciation, depreciation, like the tax benefits, all the reasons why we get into real estate as real estate investors. We understand those things. They don't know any of that. And so we started educating them. Hey, what their biggest concern was, like, I don't want to lock my money up.
Right.
And we have to change that mindset from locking their money up to locking in their financial certainty, locking in their wealth. And it's like we say all the time in that community, it's like bridging new money with old man assets. Like, these guys get some old man assets.
That's true, though.
It is.
You know, and it's true, because like a lot of I don't know the same people you know, right? But I know I have a few good friends of mine too that are, heavy in crypto, and they made a buck, right? And like you said, like a lot of them are new, right? A lot of them are new. They don't know what to do with it now, you know, and that's kind of like like you said, like that's their hesitation and downshift now. Is it's like, cool, they rode the wave and they made a good amount of money, but now what?
Yeah.
You know,
what happens when it's on its way up and it's ripping, and you want to take profit, but there's no good options, right? Like, they don't have very many good options. And so this concept of, well, wait a second, we have the real estate. How do we make it so that, because the process right now would be, hey, take that coin, either borrow against it or sell it, move it back to Coinbase, then wire it to my bank account. I'll put it in my fund. It'll spit off cash flow, which I'll then send back to your bank account. And then you can put that back through Coinbase and then
back into your wallet. Yeah.
And they're like, dude, I don't know.
A lot of steps. Yeah.
You lost me, right? Like I'm good. I'm just going to keep playing on this side of the fence.
That's a lot of transaction fees too in the process, right?
Good point. Yeah. A lot of transaction fees. And so the concept of real estate tokenization is that we just need to shorten that gap, right? Because the crypto people, they want to buy real estate, but they don't want to deal with toilets. They don't want to deal with tenants. They don't want to deal with fixing roofs or capital expenses. They just want to have a token that kicks them off cash flow or comes with some value. So we're just going to try to create an opportunity where, people buy shares or stocks in a company. You could buy tokens in a real estate asset. Typically, we're talking about funds or syndications.
Right. Now, are you guys going to be targeting more like single family, multifamily, development deals? What's kind of the target market for something like that?
That's a really good question.
And if you don't know, that's completely fine.
I do know. What we're doing is, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Whale Club at a certain point.
Yeah.
What the Whale Club is we're bridging these two worlds together, right? So
Mhm.
through my relationships at Collective Genius and Family Mastermind and all these other groups that I'm a part of, I'm sure you're members of all sorts of different groups as well, right? I have exposure to single family fund operators, multifamily fund operators, storage units, industrial properties, like
Right.
the list goes on, short-term rental fund operators.
Mhm.
So, imagine you're a crypto investor and you can go on to a marketplace and you can buy into a single family rental fund in the Southeast, or you could buy into luxury Airbnbs in Miami Beach, or
Right.
you could buy into a multifamily in Dallas or an industrial property in the Northeast. You get the idea.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
point is, if we can create a marketplace where your bridge, okay, so I give this example all the time. What was the difference between Microsoft Excel, who was an absolute powerhouse? They dominated that industry for 20
Right.
plus years, right? And then Google came out and was like, "Hey,
Yep.
here's Google Sheets."
Yeah.
It's identical almost, right? The down to the logo, the format is the same, the user interface is almost identical. Now there's some small differences, right, to avoid patent infringement.
Yep.
But the point is like they created the same product with one small difference.
Just the ease of use is better.
Well, it's on the internet.
Yeah.
You don't have to download this file and send it to you, and you got to rename it and then
Yeah.
send it back to me and I'll download it. So the point was they took something that already existed and just made one small change to it. That's really what innovation is going to take right now. And so the products already exist. Fundrise,
Mhm.
GoFundMe, these crowdfunding sources, these places where you can go on and buy fractional ownership in these different products, they already exist. All
Yeah.
we're doing is taking the Fundrise model and putting it on blockchain. That's it. We're just making it so that the crypto people can
Feel
use the
comfortable
currency
doing
that they have. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that a lot of that just comes back to comfortability, right? Because your typical real estate investors, they're fine going on and going onto a platform and sending cash over to something, right? But like you said, like the crypto people, they want to stay on what they know, right? They want to stay on the blockchain because they like the idea of the blockchain. And I think there's a huge benefit there. Did you see where I think it was Roofstock just sold the first house as an NFT?
Yeah.
That's
So
wild.
so it's happening. Like a lot of these
Yeah.
big organizations, you think they're just going to come out and tell you like, hey, these are all the things that we're doing.
Exactly.
They're positioning themselves just like we're trying to do with folks inside the Whale Club. We are trying to position ourselves. And that's why I say it's a land grab. I have this image of like men on horses in the Wild West days, just riding out and slamming stakes into the ground. Like this is mine and this is mine and this is mine. That's what's going on right now.
Yeah. No, and it's funny too because as the more we talk about it, right, the more I see it, right? Because like when we first talked about this at CG a couple weeks ago, right? I had heard about it, but not too much, right? And I think a lot of it too comes, with the simple fact of like what you focus on, you're gonna notice, right? And so like ever since we talked about that, I'll be scrolling through Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, and I'll start seeing articles. And I'll be like, oh shit, that's exactly what we talked about, right? Like with the Roofstock thing. Never would I have ever noticed that before, right? But since we had that conversation, I was like, oh damn, like there's a huge market for this, right? And I think what you guys are doing,
$1 trillion market, right? There's $1 trillion in crypto.
oh yeah. Well, I don't even think. I think it's uncapped, man. I think the market for that is just uncapped. And that's where it's like, what you're saying is so true, like bridging the gap between the two with the blockchain guys, the crypto guys, and the real estate. Because like you said, man, there's so many people out there that are super familiar with blockchain, but there's also so many people out there that don't know anything about real estate.
Well, and so this education back and forth. So, what we're doing is part of educating the crypto people who are coming in is like, we have to teach them about real estate.
Right.
They're not going to go on Bigger Pockets, Austin. Like
Nope.
they're not going to learn from Brandon Turner and Pace Morby. They don't know these people. They don't trust these
Right.
people, right? So, what's so powerful about what we've got is one of our partners, his name's Nick Peterson. He's got a massive project in the crypto world with tons of, accredited crypto investors who are sitting right there, right? So all we're doing is making it free for these people to join our community, learn everything they need to know about real estate, because they need real estate. They have a massive problem.
Yeah.
And they need to lock in some of these old man assets. It's just been proven over time, right? So if we can educate that market and create a trust and an authority as a central place, right? Well, then it opens up all the lines for any real estate investor who wants to tap into a completely untapped $1 trillion market.
Now, let me ask you that on the real estate side, right? So on the real estate side, would you be buying these assets from investors, or would you guys have your internal team going after them, or would it just be as an operator, right? As like a fund operator?
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create the future leaders in the space. What I mean by that is I don't want to own the fund. I want to create the marketplace for the different real estate investors.
Create the Amazon.
Well, yeah. So I want to, exactly. That's a good way of saying it. I want to create the marketplace like Amazon, where you've got buyers who want to buy the things, and then you've got the sellers who have all the things to sell, right? So it was just like, oh my God, the real estate investors already have these products. So Pete Kavanaugh, I don't know if you got to meet Pete. He's a single family operator in CG. He operates out of Augusta, Georgia. He's got a single family fund. We are working on tokenizing that right now. Right. So that he can sell his product to the crypto world. My role is to facilitate all of this happening. That's what we're trying to create in the Whale Club, is the education back and forth. The real estate people educating the crypto investors why they should own real estate. The crypto investors educating the real estate people how to make a killing crypto safely and reliably, right? That back and forth exchange of value results in a marketplace where the crypto people can sell their products, the real estate people can sell their products. And we just want to be the conduit to that. As I say, the bridge across the two worlds.
Right. No, and I think that's huge, man. Because I mean, you look at some of the most successful companies in the world right now, right? And all they are is exactly what you just said. They're marketplaces, right? Uber doesn't own any cars.
Yeah.
Amazon, I mean, now they sell products, right? But I mean, 90% of Amazon's products are sold by resellers, right? Third-party sellers. So I think that's huge because, there's a huge, obviously the concept's proven, right? The marketplace concept works. You got multiple business. Airbnb doesn't own houses, so I think that's massive, man. So how is the process then for like tokenizing an asset, right? Is it like shares of a company? Is that essentially kind of how it breaks down, or?
Yep. So there's two things that you have to understand the difference between. First is an NFT.
Right.
Okay. Everybody hears this term and they use it to describe everything, which is fine. Because I understand that what I want to be as an early adopter, as an innovator, is I always want to be technically correct. Right? But that's not how people understand things. Who gives a shit if it's technically correct? Right.
They just want to know it.
You just want to understand the concept. But let me describe for you the difference between an NFT, which is something that represents something unique. Right. So, if I was to sell like what Roofstock did, they sell an entire house. That house individually in and of itself is entirely unique. So if I wanted to sell a house, then I would use an NFT. If I wanted to sell shares in a house, when I chop those shares up into small pieces, they're no longer unique.
Right.
They're identical. So like, do you really care which $20 bill you have? No, you don't. $20 bill is a $20 bill. Do you care which stock you own in Apple or Tesla or wherever? No, one stock is one stock is one stock. So that would not be an NFT. That would be what's called a security token.
Okay.
So we're actually creating a security when you do shares, right? And there's a whole process for that. You can't just go creating shares in things without going through the regulatory process. That is illegal and it will land you in jail. So we have to be careful when we use those terms. I know when people say NFTs, they might be referring to a unique representation of something. They may also be referring to shares or tokens in a real estate fund.
Right.
But they're two different things. So what we have to do is we would take, let's say you've got a $10 million fund, right? Mm-hmm. You could tokenize 50% of that. You could tokenize the whole 10 million. Let's say we wanted to tokenize the entire fund. That means you would define the intervals. So like each token is $1,000 or $10,000 or X, right?
Right, right.
And you can buy however many tokens that you want.
Okay.
And so up to however many tokens are created. And this is just kind of gets into, well, the specifics of each fund and its different flavors, right?
Right.
Funds that you want to invest in. That's how it's done. In the same way you create a fund that's, so like I give this example all the time, $1 is represented on a piece of paper. A stable coin is represented digitally. It's the same exact thing, just one's paper, one's digital. Well, that's the same thing we're doing with a fund. Normally you would get an allocation that would be represented on a piece of paper.
Right.
We're just doing it on blockchain because it's much easier to keep track of all that stuff and to manage it and to issue it. You just get a transaction hash. Like it's just digital versus paper.
And typically probably I would say a lot faster too, right?
So much faster, so much more efficient.
Right.
Like the accounting side of it is so much more simplified because it's all run through what we call a smart contract.
Right. So like, how would that work, right? With the tokens. So, say you buy a token that's worth, it's a $10,000, $10,000 token, right? That's their interval. With most funds, and if people aren't familiar with that, with funds, right? Typically funds are going to offer a preferred return to their investors, right? So let's say it's got a pref of 8, right? 8%. How with the token, right? How is that pref accounted for? Is it same way?
Same way.
Same exact way. It's just paid out individually each token on the blockchain.
Yeah, this is why I love it. I love the Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets example because it's like, oh no, do the exact same thing you were doing, except now you just don't have to download the file and send it back. Just send me this link and we can edit it right there.
Now you don't have to go in and send the wire. It just automatically accounts for it.
Yeah. So technically what would happen is you would buy a token in, maybe we give like 3 or 4 options of coins that we'll accept.
Right.
We have, I was telling you about Dan, who's got, Microsoft and one of the top accounting firms in the country. We have a really close relationship with a bank, Fortigo Trust. You have to have a bank to be able to do this, right? Because we have to convert the digital currency to fiat. We still trade in fiat
right
in the real world. So you have to convert that. And then the process would be the same. All it is just an easier user interface for the customer. That's it.
Right.
We'll handle everything on the back end and it all functions the exact same way. You give me money either in physical dollars or in digital currency, which we transfer into physical dollars. And then we do the thing. Right.
Right. No, that's killer, man. Cause like you said, right. With the old school way, right. And there's nothing wrong with it. But with the old school way, right, they've got to sign the document, then they've got to confirm the wire, they've got to send the wire, they've got to, then the fund has to receive the wire. And then, it's kind of like a constant, back and forth, right? Then they've got to go out, deploy the capital. And then, depending on the fund, right, they pay out monthly, quarterly, or yearly. There's so many different variables that go into the old school way, right? You got to have a right on par, right on point accounting department to make sure that, your returns are calculated properly and, all that. So talk about that a little bit about like the smart contracts, right? Cause those, I think they've been around for a while, right? But they just got popular when the whole, NFT explosion happened, earlier. So kind of like explain, the smart contract and kind of like how that applies to this.
Yeah, what a smart contract is essentially just a computer program, right? So, on a computer, right? We have the hardware, it's the plastic and the metal and the wires and the tubes, all those things. But then it has to have a software that it runs on, what it uses to make decisions, right? That's what a smart contract does. It's just taking, for those that are in computer science, it's just an if-then statement. If this happens, then do this, else do this, right? We're just taking a computer program and putting it on blockchain so that it's programmed to do a certain thing. And again, the benefit of being on blockchain is it can't be changed. It's totally public. It's completely transparent.
Right.
So when you register this contract on a computer or on your, on your computer, it can be changed. You can go in and you can manipulate it, right? But when you record something on blockchain, it's there forever,
right?
For the specified amount of time. So we can make use of that as real estate investors or fund operators because, hey, you want when you receive money, then do this, and then do this, and then do this, and then when we receive revenue, here's how it's going to be split. I mean, it's like, well, we understand that from a computer program. That's what a smart contract does.
Yep.
And so it's just taking a computer program and putting it on blockchain. That's how I think about it.
Yeah. And I think to even further, like dumb it down for people, it's just an automation.
Yeah. Bingo.
Right.
Just automation.
Because I think that's a buzzword, right? So many people in business talk about automations, right?
Yep.
And like, if you didn't understand a lick of what he just said, some people won't, and it's fine, right? But essentially, the smart contract is the automation that disperses the funding.
Yeah.
Right. It does it for you.
Yeah.
Right. And like he said, without the opportunity of being changed. Right. So I think legally, that helps a lot of people, especially when you're talking about upwards of, millions of dollars that you're raising from people. I think liability and legally wise, and I could be completely wrong, right? Correct me if I am, but I think liability and legally wise, I think there's a lot less, I don't want to say less risk, but I think your risk is a lot more streamlined.
Well, what you're referring to is really where I spend most of my time, which is trying to understand the compliance side of it, trying to understand the application. Okay, that's cool. If we can't figure out how it's useful and how to apply it, it's just technology for technology's sake. And so we still have a lot to figure out. It's still so early.
Right.
And this is where we get a lot of collective momentum by having my incentive to educate as many people as possible is to have more smart eyeballs looking at the problem. Educated people looking at it because we will figure this out.
Right.
The more collective momentum we can build, the faster we'll figure it out.
No, I think that's huge too, right? Because I think so many people are so tunnel vision on like, I got to figure it out. Like I got to be the one that figures this out. So I think what you're doing is massive, right? I think that's huge to recognize that more people looking at this, educated people looking at this is going to help us get to the solution a lot faster. Right. And I think that transfers to almost anything, right? Whether that's real estate, whether that's anything, right? E-commerce, you name it, right? The more smart people, educated people you have looking at a problem, the faster it's going to get fixed, hands down.
Yep. And so on top of doing the research and finding these people, I'm spending a lot of time reaching out to the technology leaders in the space, the truly the innovators in the space, the compliance leaders, the attorneys, and trying to bring those people and their presentations and their resources. And we have, when I get off this call, I got our whale call where we're going to be talking more about that. Last week, we had a company, for example, called DigiShares. They are one of the leaders in this tokenization space, how to turn assets into tokens that people can buy and sell. So again, where I see like my biggest value to the group is by, as the leader, reaching out to all these people, pulling these resources in, and then educating our group. hey, by the way, here's someone who could do this for you. Here's the compliance people. We've got the bank, we've got the attorney, we've got all these tools and resources so that we can provide the education. And oh, by the way, here's everything you need in order to actually create this useful product. And here's the market that we're curating with all the crypto investors who are just sitting there waiting, dying.
Deploy capital. Yeah.
Buy these things. They want them. And so that's the exciting part. That's the land grab, man.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So talk a little bit more about the Whale Club. Talk a little bit more about that.
So it's a community of real estate investors that are working to solve this problem. First thing we have to do is we have to cover the language barrier, right? So we have a lot of people who come in and they absolutely know nothing about blockchain, and those are my favorite people because I love being able to show someone who knows absolutely nothing about blockchain over the course of about 6 to 8 weeks. There's a learning curve. Don't get me wrong. It's pretty steep. Right. But what we've done is we've made what took me about 6 months to really learn all this stuff. And, I collected a bunch of scars and kicks in the shin for about, a year learning all this.
Right.
And we've now been able to show people, well, here's how to make use of this right away. Let's start setting up some passive income for your business so we can loosen the noose a little bit, right? We're not living so day to day. We can cover our operating expenses so that we have time to focus on other things like all the fun stuff that we're working on. So it's really just a community for real estate investors who want to become future leaders in this space, who need the level of education that we have to provide, and want to collaborate with other people who are talking about this. It's okay to talk about blockchain in our community.
Yeah.
Talk about that in a lot of these other real estate groups and masterminds and things. It's just still very taboo.
Right.
So, for the crypto investor that wants to learn real estate, for the real estate investor that wants to learn crypto and be future leaders in this space, that's why people would join the Whale Club.
No, that's killer, man. So you've taken, a year's worth of struggle and figuring it out and really just condensed the learning curve for everybody. Right. And I think that's massive.
Yeah. So what I would say is first step, if you want to learn more about this, I've put 4 master classes together. So we're talking here's what the opportunity is. I'll take what we've talked about in this last, 45 minutes, and I break it down over the course of about 4 hours, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the opportunity. Here's how it works. Here's how we're using it. Here's the applications that we see, short-term, mid-term, far-term. Here's how we're thinking about it and the principles that we use to make those good decisions. So I've tried my best to lay it out as clearly as I can in these masterclasses. So you can get those at blockchainwhales.com. So that's our website. You can go there. I'm not going to ask for your email address. I promise. That's not the point. The point is to educate the market actually for free, right? Go watch these videos and learn something, right? If you want, right below those videos is a link to join our community absolutely for free. So we've got how-to videos, like how to press the buttons, how to stay safe, how to download the wallets, how to do all this stuff. I have no intention to charge for any of that. That's not the point.
Right.
It's all free. Go learn something, come into our community and get this education. Because again, it's not the power is getting more eyeballs on the problem.
Right. No, I think that's, again, man, I've said this a lot, but there's such a huge impact there by creating a community, creating this, education platform completely for free. Right. But the biggest thing is because you've recognized that by doing that, you're going to be able to solve the big issue so much faster. Much faster.
We're not trying to step over the dollars to pick up the pennies here. It's look, if you want to learn more about why people pay me to join the Whale Club, do it after you've watched those videos and come in and seen all the free stuff, right? That's kind of the point. I give a lot of stuff away for free, but there's still people who are joining constantly, right? And so the way that we approach it is not by anybody can join at any point in time. Right. We bring 12 to 15 elite investors. At a certain point, I'm not going to take everybody. Mm-hmm. Right? we're trying to take the future leaders. We're trying to pour our time and our energy and resources into the people who are actually going to go do something with it.
Right.
So every couple months, really just depends on when I feel like doing another one. We bring anywhere from 12 to 15 investors through what we call a cohort. So it's kind of like a pledge class, right? It's like we'll bring you in, and over the course of, we've extended it now about 6 to 8 weeks, and we will teach you everything you need to know to be an expert in earning passive income. We're going to teach you what we call the Certainty Operating System, which is essentially these tools and frameworks we use to be successful in crypto. And then you'll be like, oh man, this applies to like every area of my life, business, investing. I'm like, yeah, that's what a good operating system does. Right. And so we teach people all these things by the people who taught me. So Nick and Dan and Steve Trang and myself, we're the ones teaching this. You're getting to collaborate with this group of 12 to 15, future leaders in this space. So that's what it looks like. But like I said, first step is blockchainwhales.com. Just go consume all the free stuff, man.
Yeah. And we'll put the link to that in the description as well. That way people can easily just, find it and get to it. So, I mean, from what I'm gathering, then you didn't just take a year's worth of, knowledge and figuring it out. You've taken 25 plus years worth of blockchain knowledge and crypto knowledge and compacted it, right? And bundled it up, grouped it up, and now it's there, it's available.
Yeah.
Right. And for people that don't grasp how huge that is, just go look at any crypto millionaire out there. Go look at any person like that. To be doing it for this long, right? Like the guy that you said that taught you, right, Dan? To be doing it for this long at that level, right, takes a very, very, very high intellectual person, but also a very, very motivated and driven person. So to be surrounded by that many people, all geared towards the same goal, that community can't really be beaten.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed that some people just seem to get lucky over and over?
Yeah.
Well, we're those people.
Right.
And we've figured out a way to engineer and manufacture a situation where we can create upside with very little downside.
Yeah.
And that's why this Certainty Operating System is so powerful. That's ultimately what the real value is. Like, I'll show you how to press the buttons for free. If you don't really know how to approach this, it's like handing a flamethrower to a kid. Yeah, you can make a lot of money this way, but it's also very dangerous. Just like business is dangerous, just like real estate investing is dangerous. That's why we pay for mentors. That's why we pay for people who have been there and done that. Right. So talk about been there, done that. It's like, and sometimes I feel a little, like imposter syndrome. I learned all this from these guys here. And they taught it to me, and now I'm teaching it here. So, don't take my word for it. I've learned it from these guys who have been successful for decades, launching multiple businesses, helping some of the largest companies in the world execute on this. Those strategies are what helps us engineer luck in every domain.
Right.
That's why some people seem to get lucky over and over and over. It's because they have a toolbox that they're using to make decisions.
Yeah, you've got an operating system to generate your own luck.
That's right.
Yeah. No, that's huge, man. So, Paul, we're coming up right here on our time, man. So what's kind of one thing you want to leave everybody with, and then we'll sign off.
Well, this is not for everybody, and I get that. Like, where we're at in this technology, some people are going to need to watch for a few more years. That is perfectly fine. For those who are interested in taking a peek inside, kind of peeking around the corner, just go watch these masterclasses. I've laid it out exactly how it works. Watch them, don't watch them. I don't care, right? We're not trying to attract everybody here. It's just the people who see the opportunity and want to be a part of being an early adopter in this space. So no sales pitch, just go watch the free stuff, right? If you enjoy it, take the next step.
That's awesome, man. Guys, if you guys got any value out of this, guys, go follow Paul on Instagram. He's also giving a lot of value out there. And then as well, like he said, it's blockchainwhales.com, right?
Yep.
All right, guys, we'll put that in the description as well. Go check that out. That's it for today, guys. Tune in next week for another episode. Peace.
See ya.